Hey everybody, Brett here, coming at you with my second ever Total War Warhammer 2 replay commentary, doing online quick battles. I'll be playing as Tomb Kings today, and my opponent is playing as Norscan. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it in slow-mo so we can break down the armies. I picked Settra the Imperishable. Now the meta right now revolves around Arkan the Black, his skeleton summoning, his lore of death. And I feel like Settra is slightly underrated. I like to bring the lore of Nehekara and some of its cheaper spells for this one ability, the Restless Dead, which gives map-wide healing to my entire army. Every time I cast one of these very cheap defensive spells or offensive spells, if you add that healing to the healing that you receive from the Realm of Soul procs, you'll get tons of healing over the course of a long grindy battle onto your units. Now you see here I brought a mix of constructs and low tier infantry. I don't believe I have any really heavy infantry. I want to say yes, I have one unit of Tomb Guard here in the back to kind of plug up any holes that might appear in my front lines. I have a really staggered formation of low tier infantry. When I saw that my opponent went for Norsca, I immediately think of Wulfrik and Shadow Magic, which has tons of linear AoE spells that if you go ahead and you line your units up in a nice, perfect, neat line, they will tear you apart. So I didn't really want to contest the big monster game with Norsca if they decided to go Famir with great weapons for their armor piercing, or mammoths or trolls or anything like that. So I went ahead and went with a kind of a hybrid monster slash infantry killing build. I like to use standard Ushabti as my infantry armor piercing heavy hitters and mix them up with standard skeletons to hold the line while they do most of the damage. Now to kind of win me that ranged battle, which sometimes Norsca likes to bring heavy javelins, heavy skirmisher cav, which they actually did. They went ahead and went with 3 units of horse masters. So to counter that, I have here Ushabti great bows. I don't have the regiments of renown. I don't think they're needed in this matchup. They're really good at taking down infantry, but kind of so are Ushabti great bows standard. I have one bone giant. Now this guy is basically an artillery piece attached to a really heavy-hitting melee combatant. He is going to give me range superiority and force my opponent to come to me. If they want to sit back in these woods for cover, they're just going to have to eat my medium and long-ranged artillery pieces. And I also brought just a few skeleton archers. I like them just to pepper the front line. They take down berserkers really well, and they're also really good at countering horse masters as well. So I'm going to move Settra out here as kind of like bait. And let me just briefly go into my opponent's army. They took Wulfrik the Wanderer on horseback. He has a lot of his abilities. He has Sea Fang, which is the linear AoE spell I mentioned. You'll probably see it go off. It looks like a ship. He has Fight or Die, a leadership melee attack buff. And he has another ability that locks units in place and debuffs them. And when I recognized that he brought Wulfrik, I knew that that was going to be something I had to be aware of. So what I'm trying to do here is use Settra on his Kimrian War Sphinx, which is his mount. Very strong anti-infantry mount and very fast. He's very mobile. So I'm going to use his speed, once I realized he didn't have much of his own, to bait out my opponent. I'm going to bring Settra to the eastern flank here, away from these horse masters, and I'm going to try and draw the horse masters to me. I'm going to try and bait out any kind of spell usage from Wulfrik. And if he tries to shift his formation to engage, he's going to be all the while taking shots from my bone giant, who has a pretty huge range of 350. Now, opponent has a Fimir wizard. It's a shadow caster, basically exactly what I thought they would bring. The Fimir are really strong melee combatants in terms of mage units, but they also are slightly more expensive. So I mean, you really gotta weigh in that cost when you take one of these guys versus a standard human caster. They have a huge front line of very low tier marauder units, and they brought berserkers mixed in with marauder hunters, which are really good armor piercing short ranged units. So let's go ahead and speed this up a little bit so you can kind of see my maneuvering. They also brought spearmen, low tier marauder units, which are really good at poking down larger constructs. So if they were able to get in the back line or to match up with Ushabti, they would do really well for their cost. Very cheap units. So yeah, I'm just kind of baiting Settra. There we go. Bone Giant takes the first shot. Boom, a direct hit. Awesome. So let's see how many models. He killed 4 models with that first shot. And I brought up my Ushabti to kind of take advantage of this. So my opponent did exactly what I thought they would. They ran their horse masters right down the pipe. And I'm just going to draw Settra back. My opponent's going to want to move out to meet me. Another huge shot. So yeah, they've already lost 9 models on that one unit. And I'm kind of spreading out who I'm shooting at. You'll see I put damage on all 3 of these. They have pretty low leadership. So usually if you take these guys down to about half health, they'll break and they won't be kind of a factor on the field. They'll be easier to break at that point, and their damage output is really, really lessened. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll switch up my Ushabti fire just to the front line, just to soften these guys up. I'm going to go ahead and move my Tomb Guard to the front. They are my heavy hitting infantry, the heaviest I have on the field. So I'm going to let them take this entire flank. And they're more than a match for 1 unit of Marauders and 1 unit of Spearmen. That's what's great about Ushabti with bows, is they're basically mobile artillery pieces. So I have them exactly where I want them, firing them up. Probably let them get one last volley off before I retreat them back, and they can just take up a new position and fight from there. Settra's still kind of trying to find the home, still baiting Wulfrik into a fight. Spearman in the woods, waiting to take any kind of charge, ready to screen for Settra if I need it. Ushabti are engaging. You see, they'll just go to town on these Marauders. They really don't have a chance. They have no armor piercing. The Berserkers will do work against the Spearmen, but with the Ushabti here, they're just gonna tear them apart. Now I've turned one of my skeleton archers onto these hunters. I'm really going to want to keep these guys out of the fight. And I'm using my Ushabti great bows. I'm prioritizing large targets. You'll see our opponent's hero unit, the Skin Wolf. I didn't really touch on him, but he's a regenerating melee combatant, really strong. He gives a lot of punching power to the Norscan line, and when used in conjunction with Wulfrik, they're kind of a 1-2 team that can do a lot of damage. But he doesn't have a lot of mass, so you'll see Settra on his gigantic mount. He's able just to knock him around, which really limits the amount of damage he can do. Bone Giant still taking shots on this cavalry. Marauder Horsemasters, once they run out of ammo, or if they're not really finding a home in the ranged fight, you can just use them as kind of weaker shot cav. So they're a unit I really want to get rid of, and the trees are kind of absorbing some of these shots for them. Skeleton Archers doing very good work. Tomb Guard, I don't want them to overchase. I'm going to probably bring them back soon. Wulfrik and the Skin Wolf engaging in Settra. You'll see Realm of Souls already near tier 3 because a lot of my units are low tier. This requires quite a few of your units to die. So in order for that to become kind of cost effective, you need to have a really wide army for it to kind of trigger at a time when it's actually beneficial to you. So my entire army is somewhat damaged, so my entire army is getting that heal. Meanwhile, all the time, I'm casting buffs on my Regiment of Renown, the King Nikesha's Scorpion Legion, a poison dealing spear unit. And with these heals, with these buffs that I've been periodically giving him, they're single-handedly holding down this entire flank. Now, when you reach tier 3 of the Realm of Souls for Tomb Kings, you're able to summon another unit of Ushabti anywhere on the map. So I took advantage of that, and I summoned these guys directly in the center of these Horse Masters. You'll see this blue aura means that they're slowly degenerating. They're not a permanent unit, they don't stay on the field forever. But they're getting kills. I mean, they've broken these guys off the field. So you'll see Settra is now dueling Wulfrik, which is not really something that you want to do on a Sphinx versus, Wulfrik on his horse. He's designed to duel, whereas Settra on his current mount is designed to disrupt infantry formations, and he's a really strong caster as well. We have some Marauders getting the back line, but they waver right at the last second. Probably won't do much damage to my archers. Great. Yep, they're wavering off. The front line has basically devolved into a huge monster mash with my Ushabti just crushing these Berserkers and these Marauders. Tomb Guard kind of chasing guys off there in near perfect health. Awesome. So you'll see there, one of Settra's abilities is an AoE fire damage dealing attack, which knocks back infantry units. Yeah, using that breath attack. But you'll see Wulfrik is not going down. He's got the Sword of Torvald, which is giving him plus 75% weapon damage. So you see his weapon strength for a second there, was in the 700 range, which is just enormous. And Settra's health was going down. So, yeah, that we caught the tail end of that ship there. Wulfrik's bound ability. We called out the Skin Wolf. We're going to go ahead and probably try and chase him off the field, if not outright kill him. He will regen and come back if you let him, and that's definitely not something we want to do. So you see the Ushabti actually shooting in the back, and there we go. He shattered. The flag turned all the way white. He's going to run off. He's no longer a factor. So some Berserkers still fighting. They do have their tier 3 rage mechanic, which gives them significant buffs in melee the longer they stay engaged. Our opponent actually has quite a few forces that they could potentially regroup and get back together. But something that was really scary was, underestimated exactly how much weapon strength Wulfrik could get up to with all of his buffs, with his melee attack plus weapon strength combo, and Settra on a large mount, very easy to hit. And I'm knocking him around a little bit, but he's on his horse, so he's got a bit more mass, but I'm not doing a ton of damage. Meanwhile, he's actually, he's hitting the heck out of me. So I'm just going to surround him. He's a large unit technically on his horse. So what I'm trying to do is force path my spear units past him, and then get an actual surround on him so that all of these spear units are engaged. I'm doing poison damage to him, which applies a debuff. See, I'm posturing here with my range units. These guys are out of ammunition. These are standard Ushabti. I went ahead and disengaged Settra just to go ahead and use his terror that he causes on the scary Khmerian War Sphinx to go ahead and actually shatter off these units. Instead of just having them break, just go ahead and shatter them off. I have another group of Ushabti here who's going to just chase these guys off. When they get close enough, they'll probably just shatter from fear. These spearmen trying to come back to the fight. I'm going to take my ranged Ushabti and just go ahead and engage them. These guys are so low. Ushabti are so heavy hitting and such good health that they'll just take them down regardless. Still a lot of ammunition left on these archers. The Bone Giant actually shot all of his ammunition with a good 74 kills. And after using him to shatter off with his terror, I was going to bring him back into this fight with Wulfrik. Wulfrik was just surrounded and getting beaten. He had no units left to help him sustain. So with that, he's going to suffer army losses. And we're going to go ahead and take the victory. So thank you for watching. That was a great match. My opponent went really wide, expecting a different kind of build. I went with kind of a really solid all-around strong build to cover all my bases, and I think it's really well positioned to counter what I perceive as a lot of the Norscan build's weaknesses are. So thank you for watching. I'll be uploading more videos to my channel. I hope you enjoy, and have a nice day.